Yo, what's going on, guys? So this is day 6 of the 30-day vocabulary challenge, and today I'm going to be looking at some phenomenal lines from Corea off of his version of Bessie's Blues, okay? And keep in mind, I'm doing these things day by day, so I don't have a lot of time to prepare, but I'm doing the best I could to kind of, understand things through my own understanding and just trying to put things into my own language. And I'm going to show you 3 things that I liked from this song today, and they're going to get more and more ambiguous. For the most part, I can understand everything that he's doing, but at the end of the day, like, the lines he's playing, they just sound good, you know what I mean? And I always try to pull, like, understandings out of them so that I can apply those concepts universally to other situations, but even if you just like the lines that he's playing, I mean, I'm not always the one to just steal verbatim like a line, but nothing wrong with that too. So let's get into it, okay? Now, Coltrane, who originally did this song, does it in the key of E flat, but Chick plays it in the key of C, so it's like a C jazz blues, okay? So the first thing that I want to show you is the most simplest thing. It's just a straight up chord substitution that comes on the last 2 measures of the form. So typically, when you're coming, like the last 4 measures, say on like a blues, it's like the 2 chord, the 5, and then you might have some sort of turnaround. You know what I mean? Or just like the 1, 5, and then the 1 where, so any type of turnaround. But what he plays, and again, this is coming out of the 2-5, is he plays an E Lydian, or an E major 7 sharp 11 sound, okay? And I'll let you listen to it, because he does it on the first couple of choruses. Ready? So it's the first time through, and then he does it again. Ready? 2, 5. There's again. Right? And even for your lead playing, basically to think E Lydian, if you're in the key of C, that is, for the last 2 measures, it's a great substitution that isn't necessarily so common, at least not to my own musical development so far. Even just playing around with it. I'm just messing around, but basically it's a great thing that you could use, And it's actually kind of logical when you think about it, because E Lydian is related to F sharp dominant 7. They're both in the same key, and F sharp 7 is the tritone substitution of C7, which is what the original chord was that you would have been landing on there. So playing E Lydian in the place of where you would have landed on like a C7 is basically a cool version of tritone substitution. Okay, so that's the easiest thing to understand. Okay, now the next thing comes out of a line. I'll tell you when it's coming up. It's basically going to be coming, for the most part, starting on measure 6. But it actually starts where I'm transcribing it, beat 4 of measure 5. So I'll let you know when it comes up. It's not this chorus, it's the next chorus. Alright? Right now. Okay, so that's it, basically almost to the end of the chorus there. Now I'm going to play it for you slowly. Basically what I got, again, I'm pretty sure this is starting on beat 4 of measure 5, which from a harmonic context, because remember, in measure 5 is when it goes to the 4 chord, so basically it's like... that's what I got. So there's a main thing that I like about this, but I think that the 2-5 line at the end is also a really cool thing to take. But let me kind of explain what I think is going on here. So basically, it starts when we're on the 4 chord, and it's starting on beat 4 of the first measure of the 4 chord, which is measure 5. So it's like 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then that would be the end of the 4 chord, and then there it would typically go back to the 1 chord. But what he's playing there, I kind of see that as some sort of G Aeolian, which is obviously the same thing as F Mixolydian, which is exactly the chord that we're on. We're on F7. I just, from a guitar point of view, see this as G Aeolian. Okay, so that's just straight diatonic stuff. So now what he plays after that, okay, so those notes to me basically indicate what I might call an A major add 9, 11, because it has the A major triad and then just the 9, the 11 added. If we look at those notes, yeah, there's your 3rd, your 5th, there's the 9, then 11, 3rd, 5th, root, 3rd, 9, root, 5th, 11, 3rd, root. Okay, so again, right? So basically for those 2 measures, he's basically substituting, to my understanding, an A major add 11, okay? And it's not like the most exotic sound per se. I mean, to me it kind of sounds like it is taking it out, but I think I have a reason for that. But basically, here's the thing. Typically, the first measure, because we're talking about measures 7 and 8. So typically what you would have is you would either have 2 measures of C7, or you might have something where it's like a measure of C7 and then like a 3-6 leading to the 2-5. You know, right? Or if you have a 3-6, which you can also think of as your own like 2-5, instead of having like the 3 or 2, however you want to see it, you can really have the 6 or 5, meaning the A7. That's something that's typical, just to simplify it by just thinking of the dominant chord. So again, coming from measure 7 to C7, A7, right? So basically, we know that we have that chord in measure 8. That's typical, okay? But typically, it's a dominant, and a lot of times when it's a dominant, it's typically going to be more of an altered dominant sound because it's supposed to be creating tension in that measure so that it resolves to the 2 chord. You know what I mean? So, so basically, there's 2 reasons why I think this sounds hip. First reason is because it's starting on measure 7 instead of 8. So it has more of like a drastic change harmonically, or like a jump, because instead of coming from a C7 going to like a 6, almost like a 1-6 to the 2 type sound, it's coming from the 4 chord. So it's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now I just play like an A major 7 susser. He's not playing a 7 though. He's, like I said, it's just a major add 9, 11. So that's the other reason. That chord, I mean, almost similar to the way dominant suspended would function. It's not a dominant chord, so it's a little bit more stable, which means it's not that it can't resolve or cadence to something, but because that chord has more of a stable sound, again, like it's like a add 9, 11 type thing, you know, something like that. Or how about something like, so that has a little bit of a different sound, but the thing that kind of relates it back to the more common stuff is the fact that it is the root note A, so it is kind of like your 6th chord, essentially, but he's kind of using a different sound that's a little bit more unconventional there, that I think gives it a really hip sound. Like, again, coming from that 4 chord, 1, 2, 3. Right? So I'm kind of taking it out of context, playing it slow and stuff here, but that's why I think it sounds good. And then the 2-5, right? So he does some cool stuff here too. He starts with the 2 with like some modal mixture, because for the D minor, he kind of implies a Phrygian sound here. That's D Phrygian. Then he goes straight into for the second half of the 2, he already goes to the 5 chord, like a G altered sound. Right, that's the last 4 notes of the 2 chord. Basically, related to G7, you have your flat 9, sharp 9, major 3rd, and then he's going up chromatically. But then, now this is the 5 chord. When he gets this note, he's playing like basically 1, 2, hold on, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then here it is, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So then basically what he has there is like a F half diminished sound. But then when the next note, you're landing on the 1, he plays it again. But he's just doing it once and then quickly resolves into a tonic. And F diminished is a common substitution to me for like a dominant chord. Like if the chord is G7, you can play a half diminished a whole step down from the root of the dominant chord. Gives you a lot of good altered tones. So basically, that's a really cool 2-5-1 line, even without understanding the theory behind it. If you just want to feel a cool 2-5-1 line, right? And I'll play the whole line for you once more, and then I'll play it once more, him playing it, so you can kind of hear it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Sorry. Messed it up a little bit, but let me play it for you. Now, he has some notes coming before that, but I thought that was a logical place to kind of start it, so. Hold on. Right? So there's that one. So I think the main thing to take from that's unique is kind of using that major add 9/11 sound and starting it on measure 7. Okay? Then the last thing that I want to look at is around here sometime. The top of the measure. Yeah. That was it, but hold on. Okay? So he's kind of something like this going on. Sorry. Okay, so this one is the one I have the hardest time making sense of, but I can pretty much explain it. So he's kind of starting, like coming out of, like in the turnaround, he's using these chordal voicings leading up to this. Alright, now these chordal voicings can be interpreted different ways. So when he gets to this, okay, so these notes, you know, typically I can see those as the top of like either like an F sharp 13 type sound, which is the tritone sub of C7, or like a C7 sharp 9 type sound, okay? And then that's, when he lands on that, that's the top of the chorus. Then he plays this. Right? And those notes, so this I think is just a pickup. I think it is kind of relating to D flat melodic minor, if I had to guess, which is because of C7 sharp 9, that can be a chord that could be implying a C altered scale, which is the same thing as D flat melodic minor. So this is just a pickup. And there's chromatic notes in there too, because this is part of the scale. That's part of the scale. This is technically the flat 7, but hey, and it's the major 7 in relationship to C, but it just works and it sounds good. And we've got some chromatic notes there. But when he lands here, so when he gets to this, it also, these chords are going chromatically, so it's like da 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 da. So then this, when you move it down, it's kind of implying F13, which is the 4 chord. And there he has the root of the 4 chord and the 5th. So it's like, and then it goes down once more, and he plays this. And then I'll explain in a second, but then he just lands on the 4 chord. That's an easy to understand thing, because that sounds very diatonic. But basically, the cool part is this. So again, if we sorry. Yeah. So basically, the way I'm making sense of this, because these chordal voicings, you can kind of interpret them different ways. If you just kind of brought that shape down, you know, like again, it's like C7, sharp 9, F13, you bring it down once more, it's like you have B flat 7 sharp 9. So it's kind of just cycling through the circle of fifths. And that's out of key, so that's the unusual change. That's what sounds cool. To me, it's like if you think B flat 7 sharp 9 or B flat 7 altered, that's the same thing as like a B melodic minor or B harmonic minor. So, because these notes here, to me, you know, those notes work over like B melodic minor or B flat altered scale, as you see it. And then he kind of chromatically goes into this. I think what this leads into, when this leads into the C, then the rest of the line kind of, I feel like he's going back to like a C altered scale with some chromaticism leading into that, because I think he's going back to C7 altered, because that's like the 5 chord that's leading to the 4, which is where he's going. You know what I mean? So this one is a little ambiguous, but I think the cool thing to take from this is how once he's on the 4 chord, which he's playing that 13, he's kind of playing this B flat altered. So, you know, just making your own lines, you can do something like, you know what I mean? So kind of quickly throwing in like a B melodic minor scale in measure 3, and then kind of going right back to like a C7 altered, which will lead you back to your 4 chord. So like that line. You know what I mean? So again, I know that I'm kind of messing things up a little bit here and there today too, because I'm literally doing these things day by day, but that was the whole point of the challenge, to just make myself put out a video every day and to force myself to learn things from different things that I like every day. So if you stuck with me, I really appreciate it. Hopefully you took some things from this, you know, trying to really do the best I can to analyze some advanced harmonic substitutions. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you tomorrow.